Hello everyone, I'm Kristen Oakes-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
We begin our show with a look back to 1 year ago when torrential rainfall caused a flood never seen before here in South Louisiana. A whopping 31 inches of rain fell in 12 hours in some parts of Livingston Parish, flooding in 90% of the homes.
While urban and suburban areas like the one in which I live were hardest hit, rural areas were devastated as well. TWILA's Neil Melanson takes us back to the flood of 2016 and shows us where we are now.
For most people in South Louisiana hit hard by last August's floods, this was the reality. Miles of soaked homes, destroyed businesses, and precious possessions lost to a flood never seen in this area before. Amy Sibley of Walker tried to help her neighbors in Livingston Parish, and what she found was a lot of heartbreak.
While talking to several people in this particular community that I'm standing in, people got 1.5 to 2 foot of water in their home, and they're still living in those homes. They've taken out the bare necessities that they could afford, but they're still sleeping on molded mattresses that were soaked and saturated. Their homes, they haven't been able to gut them because they do not have the funds or the means to do so.
One of the hardest hit areas was in Tangipahoa Parish, which saw not one but 2 floods in 2016. You might remember William Fletcher, who earlier this year showed us how rising floodwaters from the Tangipahoa River took all the topsoil from his strawberry fields.
I mean, the ground that I'm standing on here is literally right across the street, right across my driveway from the berry fields, and all this grass washed out of fields that we had bush hogged last summer.
Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry Dr. Mike Strain said damage from the flood was in the billions, and thus far they've only gotten about half of what they've asked for.
And we ended up with about 1.6 billion of the 4 billion we'd asked for. And of that, we had about $10 million, for agricultural recovery.
These are some of William Fletcher's fields today, where he's growing a cover crop of field peas to help fix some nitrogen back into his strip soil. Like his neighbor Eric Morrow just down the road, he's had some trouble getting crops in the field. It's not like last year's flooding, but the rain is just constant. I'm standing out here in Eric Morrow's summer vegetable and strawberry farm here in Ponchatoula, and as you can see, it's a little wet out here on this August afternoon, pretty typical. What wasn't typical was, of course, last year's torrential rainfalls that led to flooding. All of this area that you see was underwater at one point. So, of course, this rain and this summer shower is a lot better than the alternative. But as Eric Morrow will tell you himself, it's not easy to get crops in the ground when it's like this.
We had we had too much rain in June. But we're kind of coming out now. We're getting a little rain this evening. We're getting ready for our fall plantings of all our squash, zucchini, cucumbers, and stuff like that.
And just like recovery in the city, things are definitely better for these growers since a year has passed. Still, everyone is hoping for sunnier skies to come back soon. I drove through a really bad rain on the way back from Eric Morrow's farm, and I learned that when I got back, that same storm had spawned a waterspout on Lake Pontchartrain just a little while later. And guys, I remember this time last year, and I gotta tell you, if I don't ever pull out another thing of drywall, that's too soon.
Well, you and your wife Sherry had done a real number on my house along with the rest of our Farm Bureau family. I mean, it's amazing to see how many people a year later have actually come back. My neighborhood is pretty much back to normal, but not everybody is back in. Not everybody is whole. My brother, he had 18 inches of water in his house. He still doesn't have everything done in his place. I mean, contractors are just overloaded right now.
A lot of those people, I think, especially the ones we saw in Denham Springs, may not ever come back, but it is good to see the recovery. One amazing fact is that as much water as we saw last year, this August is actually wetter.
I was going to say that because you don't have the residential damage that you had last August, but I'm worried that the farm damage is going to be maybe just as much, because there's rain in sight for the next 15 days.
And you know, a lot of that we may not even see yet, because what happens if it keeps raining and the soybeans can't come out of the field?
Oh, please don't talk about that.
What happens when those cotton bolls open and it starts raining on them? It's not good news.
It's going to be tough. Thank you very much, Neil Melanson. Well, as you just heard, this August is already proving to be wetter than normal, and as we mentioned a moment ago, last year we experienced the wettest August on record with 30 inches of rain coming in a 3-day period.
This came during the prime time for harvest for farmers in Louisiana. As TWILA's Carl Wigger shows us, from harvest to harvest, timing is everything.
Following the rains last August, this field was full of damaged corn laid flat in these floodwaters. West Baton Rouge farmer Donald Schexnayder has again had a wet year, but he hasn't seen nearly the damage that he did last year.
The yields have been great this year so far. We're trying to finish up. We're on our last field right now. Weather conditions all year has been good. A lot of moisture, as you realize. We're over our annual yearly rainfall already.
That rainfall has not let up as the combines have moved into the fields, and as you can see here, that's not making harvest very easy.
Right now, we're having one of the wettest harvests we've had, a corn harvest ever. We're trying to get it out as tractors are having a tough time, so it's rutting it up. So there'll be a lot of tillage work in the fall, it looks like.
Even with the mess, Schexnayder remembers last year and what this field could look like.
With our weather events we've been having, the rain almost every day, we hadn't had strong winds with it to lay much of it down, so we're kind of lucky on the most part. You know, even though it's a mess out there looking like, we're lucky it could be a lot worse.
As you can see, he does have some corn laid down, but not nearly like last year. That corn could be laid over in water that covered fields across the south, like these soybeans here. This was the scene on Clayton Hurdle's farm a year ago. Hurdle wasn't the only one with this much water on their beans. Charles Canatella, a farmer in St. Landry Parish, experienced the same thing on his farm.
Vince and I lost about, well, we had about 450 acres flooded. It ranged from 4 inches on the stalk to over the top of the stalks.
After seeing that last August, the constant rains this year have had Charles nervous about harvesting his soybeans.
Sunday morning, it rained and rained all last week, and we were due to cut these beans last week, so this is the first chance we get after them. And it's still wet. I mean, the ground's soft. Beans are dry, but the ground's soft, so we'll have to do some extra work to get these cane rows back in shape to plant cane.
Even with the rain, Canatella and Schexnayder have both been impressed with the crops that they have harvested so far.
You know, for the amount of rain this year, we are lucky. Everybody's doing good.
Yields look pretty good. These beans were planted last of March, and they're about a week late from harvest, but I don't see any damage in them, so we're pretty lucky.
It may be our best corn crop ever. It depends on how this field cuts, because it's close. It's going to be in the top 3 corn crops already, yeah.
After last year's flooding, Charles and Vincent Canatella added sugarcane into their crop rotation in St. Landry Parish. Charles says that adding some diversity into their fields is a big plus to moving into the sugar industry.
Well, we thought cane would diversify us. We've lost bean crops before the hurricanes, and you know, 50% loss in quality and yield you lose. So with cane, I think it's more of a stable crop. Prices don't vary that much, and it would take pretty good hurricane this far north to totally disaster it where you couldn't harvest. But the grain prices where they are, if you get a weather event and you lose some yield, it's hard to make ends meet. So we thought we would try some cane, and you know, we had a mill that access to get in, so that, you know, you have to have a place to grind it. So with a mill looking for acres, that helped.
The timing has certainly been good so far for both of these farmers. As for the Canatellas, we'll take a closer look into their first sugar crop when their cane makes its way to the mill later on this year. And you guys, it was a very good day to be out there. The clouds threatened. I drove through a couple of showers getting there, but it was really nice to actually be there while they could get some of their beans out of the field. I know that's something that you and Landon can appreciate back home.
I know they've got some beans that are ready. I'm praying for some dry weather because it's like it just keeps coming. And so I hope they have as good a luck as they did.
Yeah, me too. And I haven't actually talked to Charles and Vincent, but I know there was some more clouds threatening and they were moving on to some more fields after I left. So I'm hoping that they were able to get the rest of their beans that were ready out of the field.
What I liked those drone shots, man, those were incredible. I love it. I'm looking forward to whenever you go out and you said you want to hit all the crops this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what Milo looks like from a drone.
That's on the list of things to do in the next couple of weeks as it dries out. But that's been one of my favorite parts of TWILA. We talk about TWILA Harvest. I'm sure you'll mention that later on in trending, but it's one of my favorite times of year growing up on the farm. It was always the best time to be out there and getting to see the shots from the drone from above. It's kind of, it's hard to beat a good shot of a combine riding through some good corn ready to be harvested.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous.
And it gives you new perspective too that you don't usually get to see.
It really is.
So great story, Carl Wiggers.
Still to come on TWILA, come with me for a walk through a beautiful garden.
And afterward, we can have a great crawfish dinner as we go feasting on agriculture. Stay with us.
For many urban dwellers, a trip to a botanical garden is the discovery of nature's splendor.
However, as TWILA's AJ Sabine shows us, for those of us who live in the city, a botanical garden is a source of information, thanks in large part to the LSU Ag Center.
For garden visitor Robin Silverman and her family, the New Orleans Botanical Garden, located in City Park, is a weekly escape.
We just like seeing what's grown here, the different herbs, plants, flowers, vegetables, vegetation. It's really beautiful. I also like to see the butterflies and the insects. It just seems like it's, thriving and living in life, and it's nice to see that in a city where, that's not as common.
Not only does the Botanical Garden transport its guests back to agriculture, it also provides a learning opportunity for visitors who have an interest in gardening. LSU Ag Center County Agent Joe Willis.
There was a pepper trial of both hot and sweet peppers that we ran during the season, growing season here, that people could come, they could see what did well, what didn't do well, growing here in the New Orleans environment. They have various locations in the Botanic Gardens itself, particularly where there's shade gardens being grown, there are butterfly gardens or pollinator gardens being grown. There are aromatic gardens being grown. Just if you want to grow stuff just for the way things smell, you can see what does well here. You can actually see how it's grown, the type of look it's going to give you, and the results you're going to get.
LSU Ag Center Extension Agent Anna Timmerman explains that the Botanical Gardens is the perfect classroom for do-it-yourselfers.
So with the workshops and any kind of training or phone calls that we get, the public is available to call us anytime. It's a free service. We get a lot of questions about how do I even start? What are some easy things I can get started with? We have all that information. We also have recommended varieties that work for our area specifically that we can give to you. But really it's just a lot of questions about how do I get involved? How do I engage? And there is a lot of opportunity.
For Robin Silverman and her daughter, the Botanical Garden is the intersection of urban and agriculture.
We have to be conscious of what we do to the earth, and so it's important to regrow and rebuild and give back because we use it and we utilize it. And in a city that's often hard because there's so much industry and commerce, and you want to make sure that there's space and time devoted to the earth.
From City Park in New Orleans, I'm AJ Sabine for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
The New Orleans Botanical Garden, located in City Park, is open year-round and features 12 acres of art and gardens. If you're a Louisiana resident, you can check out the garden absolutely free. For more information about the LSU Ag Center and the many classes held at the garden, you can log on to our website at twilatv.org. Well, Baton Rouge restaurant owners and chefs alike have farm to table on their minds during Restaurant Week.
You know what I have on my mind? Crawfish, which is why AJ Sabine is taking us feasting on agriculture at the handsome son of bocage, Beausoleil.
Feasting on Agriculture with AJ Sabine is brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, Louisiana Crawfish, ask before you eat, by the Louisiana Rice Promotion Board, Think Rice, and by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Beef, it's what's for dinner.
Hey there folks, I'm AJ Sabine and welcome to another tasty edition of Feasting on Agriculture. Well folks, here in Baton Rouge, it's Restaurant Week. It's an exciting time for people who want to get back in touch with their inner culinarian. But if you're in the mood for farm to table, there's only one spot you need to go, Beausoleil. Joining us now is Chef Nathan Gresham of Beausoleil. And Chef, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for joining me.
This is a very, very busy week for restaurateurs and chefs alike. It's Restaurant Week. Tell us about that.
It's a huge week for us. It gets people out of the house again and eating for the summertime. The summertime's a little slower around here with the locals. So it's a good opportunity for them to come out and get a good deal. Try some local fare. We get to play with a new menu. They get a set price, and it's kind of a deal from both sides. So.
I know Beausoleil is featuring Louisiana products. Tell us about some of the farm-to-table products that people can find.
You can find all Louisiana seafood. We get the fresh catch every single day. Give me a call in the morning. Let me know what kind of fish they have coming in. We use Louisiana shrimp and crab meat. And we use the local farm too, called Fullness Farms, right here in Baton Rouge, an organic farm.
Why is that important to your vision of cuisine in Beausoleil?
It's huge for the sustainability of Beausoleil, actually, just as far as the farming and the local economy. It keeps people interested in coming in. It keeps the local produce kicking throughout the year, you know, so we get to change and have fun, and it keeps the customers interested in what we're doing.
We're here in Chef Nathan Gresham's kitchen. Chef, what inspired you to come up, what idea did you have to come up with this seafood gnocchi?
Just the local ingredients, really. Is the local seafood and the local farm ingredients. And what better way to do it than a fresh gnocchi, house-made pasta. So,
love it, let's go.
Let's go. So first we're gonna put a little clarified butter in our non-stick skillet and heat that up. That's gonna be, we're gonna saute the gnocchi. Traditionally the gnocchi in Italy is just kind of steam in the sauce. I like to get a little bit of a crisp to it. Gives it a little more texture for the gnocchi. Put a little clarified butter in the gnocchi pan as well. In that pan we're gonna add in our Louisiana shrimp. This time of year we're using brown shrimp. Kind of saute that up a little bit. We're gonna get our gnocchi, go ahead and get it browning off in the non-stick skillet. We're just gonna kind of let that hang out and kind of get nice and brown. And the other ingredients that we have along with this is going to be all from Fullness Farms. We have their black radishes. We're gonna slice those up. We got a little purple pepper from them. We have some fresh okra that we char grill. We're gonna chop that up, throw in the gnocchi as well. And we got some edible flowers. We'll kind of finish in the end with it.
Chef, tell us about what does this Louisiana crawfish do to the flavor of this dish?
So it makes it taste like Louisiana. You know, if you go anywhere else in the country and get gnocchi, it's not going to taste like Louisiana without the crawfish in it. Get a season all in there and get a good flavor. We'll cut up some of these little radishes.
I'm glad you're doing the knife work, Chef. I could cut myself.
Takes a year to practice, huh?
Now, how long have you been cooking, Chef?
Going on 18 years now. I started out cooking in Mississippi when I was in high school. 18 years old, getting a job, working around town, and then moved out west, actually. I was going to college at Mississippi State University, cooking full-time, going to school full-time, and it just, you know, made sense for me to follow my passion. You know?
How hard is this for someone to make this at home, Chef?
It's not too hard. Potato gnocchi is it's a simple recipe. It's basically just potato, flour, egg, a little bit of Parmesan cheese. And it's all about timing. You know, you want to cook your potato in the oven. I bake mine with foil, kind of steam them. You send it through a ricer, which is a very common kitchen ingredient, kitchen utensil you can buy at Sur Table. And it's really easy. And it's a fun one to practice. You can really impress your friends with it because it's not one you see very often at home. But if you master this pasta, your friends will love you.
Well, speaking of love, I love how this smells in this wonderful kitchen here in Beausoleil. And you mentioned timing, and now would be a great time to tell folks, you need to stick around because when we get back, Chef Nathan and I are going to taste this wonderful gnocchi. Stick around, we'll be right back. All right, folks, we are back. Chef, tell us again about this wonderful seafood gnocchi.
Again, it's a Louisiana seafood potato gnocchi. It's got a little Dijon cream sauce in there, some local ingredients from Fullness Farms, and some good Louisiana seafood.
And a lot of people don't realize that there are edible flowers out there.
There
Tell
are.
folks about that while I get ready to chop
That is an
down
edible flower that my buddy from Fullness Farms, he throws in there for garnishing, and it's one of his nice flowers that he grows. I'm not sure what kind it is, but it's pretty though.
Pretty.
Yeah, it makes it look good.
And as all my fans and favorites know out there, this is the favorite part of the whole cooking segment. The feasting on agriculture is the feasting part. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in here. Thank you so much, Chef, for you and your staff. Of course, Jeff Conaway as well for allowing us to come in today.
It's our pleasure.
Well, this is absolutely great. But while I'm getting ready to chow down on this, tell folks more about what they can do if they want more information about Restaurant Week.
So information, you can go on our website. It's beausoleilrestaurantandbar.com. You can go in there and find all of our upcoming events, wine dinners, cocktail dinners, live music, specials will be posted on there. So for future reference, go to the website.
Chef, the crunch of the black turnips, the sweetness of the crawfish, oh, it's awesome.
Excellent.
And the sauce that you made was really, really wonderful. I gotta say thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And folks, if you guys want more information about this wonderful seafood gnocchi dish, Louisiana crawfish, you can always log on to our website at twilatv.org. But before we go, tell us about this watermelon margarita.
This is our seasonal watermelon margarita. It's fresh squeezed watermelon and some good tequila, and you can't go wrong with it. Nice cool drink for the summertime.
Take it from Chef, you cannot go wrong with Beausoleil and feasting on agriculture. That's all from here, folks. We'll see you next time.
Feasting on Agriculture with A.J. Sabine was brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, Louisiana Crawfish, Ask Before You Eat, by the Louisiana Rice Promotion Board, Think Rice, and by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Beef, it's what's for dinner.